I'm really looking forward to doing this video. After I posted a short about it a few weeks ago, you might be wondering what happened to it and what's taken so long for me to get around to posting it. Did I change my mind? But no worries, it's finally here. Welcome to Making Sense of the World, where aside from me resisting the urge to use the word fuck like a comma, we unpack various lies, propaganda, and misconceptions put out there about targeted minority religion, like Satanism. Now you might be wondering why I seem to be defending or promoting Satanism, but what I'm actually doing is confronting the lies that have been told about Satanism in order to demonize a new religious movement. Pardon the pun. For me, it's about truth, and I despise people who stand on a platform of supposed truth to peddle blatant lies. Lies about other people and their religions for clout and to score brownie points with their followers who are often too gullible to seek out the truth of their statements for themselves. So that's where I come in, and I've done it all for you. What's today's video about? Well, you've already read the title of this video, so I assume you know it's about the Satanic Calendar. It's a thing that's been doing the rounds since before the internet was even a thing. It's been passed around like some sort of chain letter since before social media even existed. If there's such a thing as virality, then it went viral before the concept itself even existed. As far back as 1986, when the first version of this device was first released, it has circled the world. Poisoned minds, misled police forces, and serious detectives become a convenient tool for purveyors of moral panic, presented fodder for scammy get-rich-quick would-be writers and media personalities, and even taken in some serious academics along the way. But most of all, it's become a tool relied upon by religious activists, witch hunters, and scammers. Ladies and gentlefolk, it is with sincere apologies that I inflict upon you the dumbest, most poorly thought out, fake-ass calendar that many Christians today still believe is 100% real. The Satanic Calendar. And we're going to debunk it. I'm in South Africa. This video is basically in a South African context, but it's still going to apply internationally to the respect of how honest and accurate these calendars are, but I'm going to interpret it from a South African context. This is a presentation that I built based on a paper that I wrote back in 2021 called A Date with the Devil, Occult and Satanic Calendars Debunked, and also another 2 papers that I wrote on the topic of Satanism. You can find all of them in the references list below the video if you're interested. So now we come to the scope of the presentation. I'm going to be doing an introduction, the dates or festivals listed in these calendars, the purpose of these calendars, what is wrong with these calendars, and actual calendars within Satanism. And then we'll do a conclusion, and the Q&A session is not going to work out in the video. Is that you can most certainly leave comments and questions, and I will get around to answering them in due course. So we're going to introduce the Satanic Calendar to you via 3 main questions. What is the Satanic Calendar? Who made or makes the Satanic Calendar or Satanic Calendars? Who uses these Satanic Calendars? And then some very important unasked questions. In this slide, you can see just a few examples of Satanic Calendars. Usually you'll find them in religious magazines, on church websites, or religious organizations websites, such as so-called deliverance ministries. You know, those little organizations that wage spiritual warfare, and they try to convert people that they believe are Satanists into Christians, and so on and so forth. The ones on the right there in the yellow, they are actually from a very, very prominent magazine in South Africa that played a very big role in the moral panic that we call the Satanic Panic in South Africa. Okay, now we come to the introduction. What is the Satanic Calendar? It is sometimes also called the Satanic Ritual Calendar, the Occult Calendar, the Satanists and Witches Calendar. It comes under various names, but usually the content is very similar. So the title doesn't really matter. It's basically aimed at people that are perceived to be involved in some kind of occult activity. It's a device which claims to be a list of festival days or days of significance to Satanists and within religious Satanism. The little NRM over there, for those of you who don't know, is for New Religious Movement. This device is a feature of moral panic, spreading disinformation about marginalized or targeted religious groups such as Satanists, pagans, witches, etc., and to generate or incite enmity or outrage or fear towards them. It's a device designed to lay blame on a targeted group in the perception of law enforcement and the public. And that is the most noteworthy characteristic of these calendars, is that they're actually intended to be used by law enforcement. But they also have other uses as well, but we'll get to it in the course of the presentation. They are a foundation for conspiracy theory. There are many different variations or versions of this calendar, listing variations of similar satanic unholy days. But the important thing to note is that most of these calendars list between 85 at least and 140 days at most days per year. So that's about almost half out of the 365 days spread out throughout the entire year. We'll see in a minute what the purpose of that is. Point number 2, who made or makes the Satanic Calendar or Satanic Calendars? Here we go. Anti-Satanism activists, Christian evangelicalists. They're almost exclusively based on the same origin material created by a guy called David Balsiger, who created the first one in 1986. Most examples contain the same errors, spelling mistakes, unique and weird festival names, statements, misrepresentations, and dates and date ranges. Some have been added to or updated, often retyped and represented in fresh layouts. Some are shortened, occasionally endorsed to conflate Satanism with ideologies such as Nazism and Eastern religions, or to connect Satanism with missing persons. The same flaws remain evident. Basically, they look a lot like each other. While the source material is almost always similar, these calendars or references to them appear in magazines, newspapers, websites, books, and are sometimes even repeated or modified or unmodified in scholarly theological works. For example, Evard Haysaman's Magte van die Duisternis, oor Satanisme in die RSA, from 1990. Now, those of you who are not from South Africa won't know this book. I don't think many people from South Africa even know this book, but if you're interested in the moral panic and satanic panic in South Africa, this book is one of the earliest examples of satanic panic literature in the South African context. And it features a version of the Satanic Calendar taken directly from David Balsiger's layout, but just translated into Afrikaans. The Satanic Calendar started with David Balsiger. It didn't exist before then. The calendar spread around the world with the satanic panic of the late 1980s and 1990s and persists today with the help of the internet. As I said, you can find it on church websites, you can find it in magazines. Although I must say in the last 10 years or so, its appearance has declined a little. But we're looking at its role and its uses and how it helped to shape modern day understanding of Satanism or modern day public perceptions of Satanism. Now, who uses these satanic calendars? I can tell you now, it's not Satanists. Christian anti-Satanism activists who spread this information about marginalized religious groups. That's their usual favorite targets. Satanists, pagans, witches, etc. Police, other government agencies, and sometimes media to connect supposed crimes with Satanist activity in the satanic panic context. We'll come to how they do that in a little as well. When I say government agencies, in the case of South Africa, it's the police, specifically a special unit within the police which focuses on so-called occult crimes. And then the Department of Education is another one that's been very prominent in the last 30 years or so. Then comes the most important part, pseudo-Satanists who act out what they believe to be Satanism according to what Christian anti-Satanist activists say it is. Then we come to the very important unasked questions. One of the most important questions for me, though, is why these questions are never asked. I've read loads of papers about Satanism by scholars who are very open-minded and impartial to Satanism in terms of the claims that it's involved in crime or it commits human sacrifices and all this other nonsense that you're going to see in the calendar. They very seldom seem to question the veracity or the truthfulness of these calendars or these claims. So here we get to the questions. Do these occult or satanic calendars have any relevance to occultists and or Satanists themselves? Why have attempts by critics to correct purveyors of satanic calendars on errors or misrepresentations been ignored? And why do those promulgating or spreading these devices have no background in religious studies or association with the religions these devices slander? The people that are spreading these calendars usually are not involved in Satanism, have never been Satanists themselves, and have no authority or legitimacy or credibility in that field to claim that these calendars are real. Use of the Satanic Calendar in South Africa. Versions of this calendar appear in several books and publications by influential South African anti-Satanist activists. That would be Youth and Satanism Exposed by Neville Goldman and Kobus Jonker. Magte van die Duisternis from Evard Huyshamen. Satanisme a Realiteit, meaning Satanism a Reality, by our own Kobus Jonker again. Satanism Exposed, also by Kobus Jonker. Then there's the Servermoes Special Community Edition, also contributed to by Kobus Jonker. Now that is a police-themed magazine, contributed to by lots of actual police officers themselves. It's supposedly independent of the SA Police Service. It is very much focused on a policeman's perspective of crime and community issues, and they thoroughly focused on spreading moral panic, ideas about Satanism and pagan religion and New Age movements and so on, trying very hard to connect these belief systems to drug use and crime during the 1990s and the 2000s. Then there's the AUKSANO Magazine, contributed to by Johan de Beer, who happens to run AUKSANO as a former member of the SAPS's occult-related crimes unit. These are the most prominent examples of the Satanic Calendar that I've been able to find to use in my presentation. Now, many of these anti-Satanist activist books or publications are cited uncritically in academic works, creating citation chains because one scholar will cite another scholar's work using this material and then perpetuating the disinformation, distorting scholarly understandings and perceptions about Satanism. And we'll talk about that again later. Okay, now we're going to come to the calendar itself and have a look at the dates and the festivals and the holy days that are actually listed on these calendars. I'm going to be reading each entry and then giving my remarks on it as we go along to save time. So you don't need to go through this list twice. Believe me, you don't want to do that because I sure as hell don't want to do it myself. So we don't have to go through it twice or exhaustively in the following section that covers what's wrong with these calendars. I also want to point out that the entries below are compiled from several different versions of the Satanic Calendar, and to remind you that often the wording is almost or exactly the same between many versions. There are a few that deviate in some ways. I've done my best to include all the variations present in the versions of the calendar that I could find. Let's start with January. January 1. New Year's Day, Druid Feast Day, a Druid Spirit Feast Day. Lights, fires on hilltops. Why would Satanists bother to celebrate an ancient Druid feast day or light fires on hilltops? Does that depend on whether they happen to find a hilltop near them that happens to be flammable? What relevance would any of this have to Satanists? January 7. St. Wynebald's Day or St. Winkbald's Day, often misspelled. Blood rituals, dismemberment or mutilation. Animal, human, male sacrifices age 15 to 33. St. Wynebald's Day is an archaic Christian festival. St. Wynebald was a Christian saint of no relevance at all to Satanists. St. Wynebald's Day is December 18th and not January the 7th. As users of these occult calendars, including some apparently serious police officers, keep on insisting, Satanists don't bother with Christian nonsense, nor are dismemberment, mutilation, cruelty to animals, or murder part of Satanism or paganism. The 17th of January. Satanic revels, celebrations, satanic celebrations, satanic drinking party, sexual rituals, females ages 7 to 17. January the 17th was a day of significance to the worship of Felicitas, a minor Roman goddess of good fortune, which has nothing to do with Satanism. This date or festival has no significance to Satanism. January 20, St. Agnes Eve, divination to see future husband, cast spells. St. Agnes was a Christian saint, venerated as a Christian martyr and patron saint of virgins, girls, and chastity. What does she have to do with Satanism? The occult or witches. Also, the Christian festival is on the 21st, not the 20th, or the 20th, or the 29th, as these idiotic calendars insist. The 20th to the 26th or 27th, 6 days. Sometimes the 20th of January to the 2nd of February, 13 days, depending on the calendar. Sacrifice preparation, kidnapping, holding, and ceremonial preparation of person for human sacrifice. Again, Satanists and pagans don't practice human sacrifice or kidnap people, at least not for their religion. Look it up for yourself in canonical religious literature used within Satanism. Here we come to an interesting one. The 26th of January, the Demure ritual, grand climax.
Muer.
Muet.
Sex rituals and human sacrifice of woman or child. Demure is of an untraceable origin. The only place it's known to exist is with reference to these calendars. The creator of the original calendar, Mr. Balsiger, appears to never have explained what it is, what it means, or what sort of ritual it's supposed to be, or what it entailed. Neither did the spreaders and adders to the subsequent revisions of this thing. Also, many versions can't even agree on how it's spelled. Variations of demure, and so on. And once again, Satanists don't practice torture, mutilation, kidnapping, or animal-human sacrifices as part of their religion. January the 29th, St. Agnes Eve, or St. Agnes Eve, casting of spells. Already spoke about this one, and also some of these people can't even seem to spell the names of their own Christian saints correctly. So here we have between 13 and 26 days effectively out of one entire month. That doesn't leave much room for doubt if any occult-looking crimes come along during January, does it? February. The 2nd of February, Candlemas, Maria Ligmas, Satanic celebrations, mass initiation of new members into various covens, blood, animal, human sacrifices, sex rituals, females ages 7 to 17. Candlemas, to give the correct spelling, is again another Christian day of significance, which, like animal or human sacrifices, has bugger all to do with Satanism and has been misappropriated by these purveyors of moral panic. February 14th, that's right, Valentine's Day, because nothing says I love you quite like sex and blood rituals and human sacrifice. Also, Shrovetide. Shrovetide is a Christian observance and is traditionally the day 3 days before Ash Wednesday, another Christian day of significance. In the case of Balsiger's calendar for 1988, it also happened to be St. Valentine's Day in 1988, which isn't a satanic celebration either. But as a result, Valentine's Day has now been tied to supposed Satanism ever since. February 25, St. Walpurgis Day. Dismemberment of human bodies to have communion with their blood, any age. Another case of misappropriated Christian festivals. Saint Walpurga was a saint of the Catholic Church canonized in 870 CE. These people do seem to have a fascination with human dismemberment and blood, don't they? So in February there are 3 days spread about evenly through the month. If anything occult happens during February, it's bound to be close to one of them, to blame it onto Satanists, right? Then we come to March. 1st of March, St. Aikatad Day. Blood ritual involving the drinking of human blood for strength and homage, honors to demons, ages 7 to 18. There is no saint by the name of Aikatad in Christian tradition, and there are no saints in Satanism, or it might have been Satanism instead. It is St. David's Day in Wales, and just like human sacrifices or dismemberment or drinking human blood, still has nothing to do with Satanism or Satanism, whichever you prefer. This sometimes appears in February, sometimes March. Between early February and early March each year, Shrovetide, 3 days before Ash Wednesday, which is a witch Sabbath. Already spoke about that. Shrovetide and Ash Wednesday are Christian observances that have less than nothing to do with Satanism. Not sure how to pronounce this one, so we'll just go with Ides. 15 Ides. No description, nothing. in any source that lists it. One possibility is that it refers to Ides, meaning the middle of or 15th of a month, referring to the superstition about the 15th day of a month that emerged from the assassination of Julius Caesar. Remember?
Caesar's turn to hear. Beware of the Ides of March!
On March 15, 44 BCE. What does that have to do with Satanists? March the 17th. Ides. No description in any source that lists it. The 17th isn't the middle of a month that I'm aware of, nor does any month have 2 middle days. Can these people even count? If you're going to lie, at least make the lie sound believable. March 20 or 21. Vernal Spring Equinox Sabbath Festival. Major Fertility Sabbath, a feast day. Orgies involving human and animal sacrifice. Why would Satanists celebrate an ancient pagan fertility festival? And pagans don't even use Sabbaths. They use Sabbats. March the 24th, Feast of the Beast. A 16-year-old girl becomes the bride of Satan in a marriage ceremony. Paul Seeger's original calendar appeared 8 years after the release of the novel Michelle Remembers. The Feast of the Beast originated in that book and is a fiction created by the authors and perpetuated by pseudo-Satanists who believe in that fantasy version of Satanism. Incidentally, I also wrote a paper about pseudo-Satanism, describing what it is. It's called What is Satanism Really and What Isn't? A concise definition of Christianity-created pseudo-Satanism, or CCPS. You can find the link to it below. It's completely free, open access. You can read that if you want to. So there we have 5 days spread right throughout March. Again, the same principle, leaving plenty of space for anything that happens during the month that could be blamed on Satanists to give them a good, say it was close to the 24th, so it must be related to Satanism, for example. And we have April. Believe it or not, Easter weekend. The whole of Easter weekend is dragged into this crap as well. Maundy Thursday, or in some calendars it's called Unholy Thursday. Maundy Thursday is a Christian feast observed on the Thursday before Easter. It commemorates the Last Supper of Jesus Christ with his apostles, during which he washed their feet and gave them a new commandment to love one another. It's the day before Good Friday. Maundy Thursday has nothing to do with Satanism. Black Mass, Black Sabbath, Good Friday. To mock the death of Jesus, a man is sacrificed on Good Friday. Actually, there are people who reenact the crucifixion of Jesus, and some people actually get themselves nailed to crosses. And they're all Christians, not Satanists. Unholy Sunday is on Easter Sunday. Human sacrifice followed by 3 days of fasting and chanting. 5 days total. Easter has no significance to religious Satanists whatsoever, and neither does Christ. Sorry to break it to you guys. April the 19th to the 25th. Grand Climax, sacrifice preparation. Sex and blood rituals, kidnapping, holding ceremonial preparation of person for human sacrifice, 6 days. Again, repeat after me. Kidnapping or murdering people isn't part of Satanism or paganism. April 24, sometimes 25. St. Mark's Day or St. Mark's Eve. Divining or herb gathering. Another misrepresented Christian festival that has nothing at all to do with Satanism. April 25 or 26 to 31, depending on which calendar. 7 days. The Demure ritual or grand climax, Corpus de Baal, Corpus de Bar. Do I hear Corpus de Blah?
Blah, blah, blah.
Sex rituals and human sacrifice of women, child ages 1 to 25. So much sex. These people make being a Satanist sound so exciting, don't they?
I think I just peed a little.
April the 30th, Walpurgisnacht, otherwise known to pagans as Beltane or Samhain in the southern hemisphere. One of the most important nights in the Satanic Calendar, blood rituals and human sacrifices. As discussed earlier, this is another Christian festival or Christian saint misrepresented by Christians ignorant about their own religion's festivals as satanic. And I can guarantee you that when pagans celebrate Beltane or Samhain, they don't sacrifice humans or torture animals. The only significance of the day to Satanists is that Anton LaVey founded the Church of Satan on the 30th of April 1966 to mock Christian superstitions around Walpurgisnacht, with good reason it seems. So in April we have between 14 and 20 days effectively, out of 30 days. I think by now you should be able to see where this is going. Here we have May. The 1st of May, Beltane or May Day Fire Festival. Blood rituals and sacrifices of human infants. Druid Fire Festival. Coven initiations. One of the most important dates of the Satanic Calendar. Another Druid Fire Festival? This is one of the 4 Gaelic seasonal festivals marked by neo-pagan religion, such as Wicca, for example. Why are Christians so obsessed with fire and murdering people? Why do they insist on associating Druids and pagans with Satanism? May the 24th, Ascension Day or Ascension Day. Some of these people can't even spell ascension correctly. Rituals to mock the ascension of Christ into heaven. Oh yeah, because Satanists have nothing better to do with their time than to do rituals to mock Christianity, right? 2 days, one at the beginning, one close to the end. Kind of covers the month. June, the 2nd or the 17th, Corpus Christi. Not just a town in Texas, but a feast to mock the body and blood of Christ. Another Christian festival date, mainly observed by Catholics. It's a public holiday in some predominantly Catholic countries, such as Spain, and its date varies by year. Neither the date nor the Christian festival hold any meaning to Satanism. June the 21st or the 23rd, Midsummer's Eve, feast day, summer solstice, St. John's Eve. Invokes the sun at the height of its strength, feast day with orgies and human or animal sacrifices. Most important time for the practice of magic, fire festival. I hate to break it to you, but a harvest festival celebrates life, not death. And you never celebrate life with death. The sun has no religious significance to Satanists. Why would Satanists celebrate the harvest and summer solstice? Again, 2 days, beginning and end of the month, covering the whole month. July, the 1st of July, demon revels, blood rituals and sexual relations with demons. July the 1st has no apparent religious importance or significance for any religion, including Satanism. July the 10th, unholy day of the Palladium. Reading of the old Satanism ritual books.
What? What? Who?
Aside from 2 obscure old Christian feast days for ancient martyrs, the 7 brothers and Saints Rufina and Secunda, that's according to Chambers from 1869, and festivals of the Northern European goddess Holda, Hela, Northern European goddesses Holda, Helda, I'll get it right eventually, Holda, Hela, and Skadi. There appears to be no religious significance to this day at all, least of all to Satanists. And what old Satanism ritual books? July 20 to 26 or 27, depending on the calendar, between 6 and 7 days. Sacrifice preparation, kidnapping, holding, and ceremonial preparation of person for human sacrifice. Again, Satanists and pagans don't kidnap people to use in sacrifices they don't believe in or perform. 25th of July, St. James's Day, gathering of herbs for rituals. St. James's Day, also known as the Feast of St. James, is celebrated on July 25th. St. James's Day is marked with processions, special masses, and celebrations, especially in Spain where it's a public holiday. I don't know if the name is a giveaway, but it's another Christian occasion that has nothing to do with Satanists gathering herbs for rituals. So in July, you have between 9 and 10 days covered by, this bullshit. August, 1st of August, Lammas Day, Great Sabbath, Feast of the Sun God, animal-human sacrifice, any age, the beginning of autumn and the harvest season. Because Satanists must really, really love the harvest season. For some reason, Lammas Day, celebrated on August 1, is a Christian holiday, traditionally marking the beginning of the wheat harvest season. It has nothing to do with Satanism. August 3, Satanic revels, sexual ritual, blood sacrifice, human or animal. August 3 has no apparent religious significance for any religion, including neo-paganism and Satanism, and probably not Christianity either. August the 24th, St. Bartholomew's Day, Great Sabbath Fire Festival, large herb gathering, again with the fire and the herb gathering, and misappropriated Christian festivals of Christian saints. Why would Satanists celebrate Christian saints? And unless it's weed, I can't imagine Satanists being as obsessed with herb gatherings as the people who made this shit up. Anyway, that's 3 days in August, more or less beginning and end, covering the whole month. September, 5th of September to the 30th of September. That's the whole month, by the way. Unnamed, fasting to do everything Satan's way. A month of fasting? How come Satanists didn't get that memo? The 7th of September, marriage to the beast, Satan. Sex rituals, sacrifice and dismemberment of human corpses with their hands planted in the ground. Female child under 21. Cannibalism. September 7 is the feast day of Christian saints like St. St. Clodoald, or St. Cloud, a day remembered for charity and service, and it serves as the vigil of the Nativity of the Blessed Virgin Mary on September 8. It has fuck all to do with Satanism. September 20 or 21, the autumnal equinox, midnight host, blood ritual, dismemberment of corpses, hands are removed for hand of glory ritual. The what? Cannibalism usually occurs. The hell it does. And there's no such thing as the hand of glory ritual in Satanism. This is a macabre folkloric practice in European folklore, typically described as as the dried and pickled hand of a hanged criminal, believed to possess magical powers. The ritual to create a hand of glory was a folk magic or witchcraft belief from the early modern period with roots in European occult traditions, and was used by burglars who believed it would immobilize people in a house, rendering them speechless or asleep while the hand's candle burned. Again, just another bullshit belief that had nothing at all to do with actual Satanism. September 22 to 23. Feast day, fall, autumn equinox, sex orgies, human sacrifice. Seems like to be a Satanist you really have to have real stamina.
I wanna hump a lot.
How many sex orgies have been on this calendar so far? I've lost count. Anyway, it's just more of the same nonsense. 23rd of September, fall equinox, feast day and sexual orgies with human sacrifice. With all the supposed human sacrificing going on in this calendar every year, you'd think someone might actually notice that people might be disappearing around them. Common sense does not seem to apply. September 27. Election of ministers, elect satanic ministers and speak confessions out of the scriptures in the book Macho Cabrillo. Also, Macho Cabrio. The phrase means he-goat in Spanish. No such book is known to exist, not even in rare occult catalogues. Alas, it appears, forsooth, that this entry, like all the others in this cockamamie calendar, is yonder bullshit. So in September, you've got between 5 and 31 days, effectively varying between calendars that, could be used to link any crimes committed to Satanism. Then we come to October. This is a busy month. October the 4th, cursing of the body of Christ. This is not a typo. This is actually in several of these calendars.
I now declare this frickin' idiot convention open!
Rituals to cursing the body of Christ. The people who believe this either have a sense of inflated self-importance or a persecution complex. Why would Satanists waste their time doing rituals to curse them? Especially when simple swearing would do. Get over yourselves, not everything's about you. October the 13th to the 30th, 17 days, or sometimes 22 to 29, 7 days, depending on the calendar. Sacrifice preparation, kidnapping, holding and ceremonial, blah blah blah, same story. Once again, does not apply to Satanism. October 15 to 20, preparations for Halloween. Meetings to prepare for Halloween, 5 days. What meetings? To plan parades? Boot sales? Who's bringing the skull candy? Do they pass around little agendas with BYOB, bring your own body, on them? October 21 to 25, day of reflection. Fast reading the mantras. What mantras? And how fast? Or is there a missing comma? Why can't these idiots use proper grammar? 4 days. October 26, traditional satanic rituals. Oh yes, like which ones? Maybe they don't say which ones, because they don't know enough about Satanism to know. October 27, confessions to cursing Satan. I hate to break it to you guys, but confessional is not a part of Satanism, nor does Satanism believe in sin. So this makes no sense at all. Further, no Satanists that I know use the name of Satan as a curse word. They typically use Jesus Christ, just like Christians do, and like to pretend that they don't. October 28, Hello Mass. Blessing of satanic groups. Hello Mass, commonly referred to as the Black Mass, is a ritual performed by some satanic groups as a sacrilegious parody of the Catholic Mass. Bear with me, this takes a little explanation. No serious religious Satanist group would actually perform this ritual or put any stock in it, as it was invented by Christians firstly, in concept by the rumor mill of the Inquisition, and secondly being theatrically revealed in complete form by a folklorist by the name of H.T.F. Rhodes in his piece The Satanic Mass in 1954. Rhodes himself admitted that no first-hand sources detailing actual Black Mass rites existed. His work compiled folklore, sensational trial testimonies from the Inquisition, literary depictions, and rumors rather than documented rituals. which means he could just as well have made it all up by himself. The ritual created by Rhodes was adopted as a parody by Anton LaVey in modern times, probably to piss off his Christian critics because he was a showman at heart. It's not genuine Satanism, it is inverted Christianity or pseudo-Satanism. If you're wondering why I'm saying this ritual isn't authentically Satanist, here are two big reasons for you. Modern Satanism came into being in 1966 with the founding of the Church of Satan by Anton LaVey. The Satanic Mass, describing the so-called Black Mass, was published in 1954, a full 12 years before Satanism as a new religious movement came into being. There's no logical connection between the two, even if you take into consideration LaVey's adoption of it years later. It still doesn't legitimize it or magic away the fact that it isn't an authentic Satanist ritual developed by actual Satanists. Which brings us to the second reason. Remember I mentioned pseudo-Satanism earlier? Well, pseudo-Satanism occurs when external identities, such as Christians for example, define what Satanism is, believes, and practices. And people, third parties, adopt these beliefs and practices on the misunderstanding that that's what Satanism is. Meanwhile, authentic Satanists define Satanism for themselves, without interference from Christians or anyone else. At the end of the day, Satanists don't waste their time doing rituals to mock Christianity, and that's exactly what the Black Mass is. A waste of time, an archaic Christian idea, what Satanists would do to mock a religion they don't believe in, just to prove they don't believe in it. Makes sense, doesn't it? October 28 to 30. Satanist High Unholy Days, related to Halloween, human sacrifices, 2 days. Now, Halloween is not associated with human sacrifices by Satanists or any other contemporary religion. Modern Halloween customs mostly stem from cultural traditions like costume wearing, trick-or-treating, giving out sweeties to kids, and bonfires, which have evolved over the centuries and been influenced by Christian All Hallows Eve celebrations. So yet again, another case of Christian projection. October 29, the Demure ritual crops up again. Most unholy day, closely related to Halloween. Order of Ministers of the Rock Music Managers and Promoters. Human sacrifice. Another Demure ritual? We still haven't even figured out what that even is, or how to do the last two. Is this the most unholy day, or is that Halloween? Or one of the other 3 unholy days listed on these crappy calendars. What do rock music managers and promoters have to do with it? Is there some sort of festival coming up on 29 October? Satanists want to know.
Throw me a frickin' bone here.
October 30, All Hallows Day, satanic rituals, baptisms in blood from human sacrifices of adults and children, cursings to put upon people, have no contact with Christianus, I suppose Christians, until after rituals. One of the most important dates on the calendar. Another one. There is no historical or traditional Christian observance called All Hallows Day on October 30. Rather, the Christian feast known as All Hallows Day, also called All Saints Day or Hallowmas, is celebrated on November 1. And lastly, that crap about blood, human sacrifices and curses is just alarmist bullshit put out by Christians to create a bogeyman to keep their flocks fearful. October 31, All Hallows Eve, Halloween, Samhain, Beltane in the Southern Hemisphere for the pagans. Great Sabbath and Fire Festival, the night the dead are supposed to return to Earth, one of the 2 most important nights of the year. I've lost count of the most important nights of the year in this calendar already. Attempts are made to break the bond which is keeping the doors to the underworld closed. Dun, dun, dun. Blood and sex rituals, sexual association with demons, animal and human sacrifices, male or female. Halloween is significant to some Satanists, although human sacrifices are not included among satanic rituals for Halloween, but dressing up in costumes and eating candy is. Between 15 and 25 days of an entire month is dedicated to this crap. November, 1st of November, or from the 1st to the 3rd of November, depending on the calendar. High Unholy Days, All Hallows Day, related to Halloween, human sacrifices. Another dishonest entry featuring another Christian festival, misrepresented as being connected to Satanism. The Christian feast known as All Hallows Day, also called All Saints Day or Hallowmas, is celebrated on November 1, generally by Catholics. And I don't think they sacrifice people at their festivals either. Also, again, there are no saints in Satanism. November 2 to 9, an unnamed festival. Week of Satanic weddings. Are these more brides of Satan? 7 days for this rubbish. November 4, Satanic revels, Satanic festival, sex orgies, females aged 7 to 17. This date has no apparent religious significance for any religion, including neo-paganism or Satanism. November 24, Thanksgiving Day. Usually Wiccan celebration. Fuck me. Firstly, Wicca is not Satanism. Secondly, November 24 has never been a Wiccan day of significance, nor in Satanism. It is an American secular banking holiday and an American Christian feast day to celebrate the arrival of English Christian immigrants and the start of their treacherous colonization of North America. 9 days. December 8th, picnic of tortured souls, skinning and burning of virgin female aged 7 to 17. No reliable historical or religious texts bear out this claim. In short, this is bullshit. December 21, St. Thomas Day, Great Sabbath and Fire Festival. The Feast of St. Thomas the Apostle, a Christian festival linked with winter solstice customs, such as the longest night and shortest day, and associated local customs like Thomasing, where poor women went door to door asking for food and money. However, the Roman Catholic Church moved this official feast of St. Thomas to July the 3rd in 1969 to avoid conflict with the Advent season. It has nothing to do with Wiccan or pagan Sabbaths or Satanism. December 22, summer or winter solstice, winter solar eclipse. Animal and human sacrifices are made. Sex orgies. Satanists don't condone animal abuse or perform human sacrifice, and they don't care about seasonal solstices or eclipses. And if they want to have sex orgies, they'll schedule them for convenience and not according to whatever deranged, archaic, disused Christian festivals Christians tell them to. 24 December. Demon revels, demure, ritual, grand climax, whatever. Male or female sacrifice. Body parts of male infants given as Christmas gifts.
Oh no, not feet again.
December 24th is Christmas Eve, which is not recognized by most pagans and certainly not celebrated by Satanists, least of all for handing out body parts. December 25, Yuletide, celebration of the birth of the sun as a young babe to the great goddess. Lucifer is represented by a pine tree.
Tree? I am no tree.
The Satanist's own birthday is very important. Then why mention it verbatim from other sources when it has no bearing on the 25th of December? I mean, Satanists aren't all born on the 25th of December. Yuletide is an ancient winter festival of Germanic origin, involving feasting, singing, the burning of a Yule log, and honoring nature and deities associated with renewal and light. Many Yule customs, such as decorating evergreen trees and singing to plants for a good harvest, have influenced modern Christmas traditions. There is no connection between Lucifer and pine trees, other than that conifer sounds a bit like Lucifer. Maybe. December 29, St. Thomas Day. Fire festival or ritual ceremony. Thursday after Christmas. December 29th isn't a fire festival, nor is it a neo-pagan ritual date, and it isn't a satanic ritual either. There are no fire festivals in Satanism on this or any other day. It's a Catholic feast day. Also, St. Thomas Day isn't on the 29th of December or the 21st of December either. It was moved by the Catholic Church to July the 3rd in 1969 because it would have clashed with another one of their festivals. So we come to the end of December. 5 days out of December, spread across the month again. I'm surprised they left out the ancient Roman feast of Saturnalia. That would have given them a whole extra week in December. Missed opportunity there. Also, pagans and Satanists don't use Sabbaths. Pagans use Sabbats. Satanists don't use either. Sabbats belong to Wicca and some other neo-pagan religions and have nothing at all to do with religious Satanism. Then we come to the grand total. Between 85 and 140 days per year out of 365 days are connected to Satanism or satanic activity by these calendars. Now, spread out across the 365 days of every year, this casts a wide net to enable any police force using the Satanic Calendar to attribute a suspected crime to Satanist activity based on the proximity to one of these dates or festivals. Now, as promised, we come to the purpose of these calendars: to create an imaginary connection between Satanism and crime, a prominent tool that helped to spread moral panic around the world. Yeah, the main purpose of the Satanic Calendar is to create an imaginary connection between Satanism and crime. And it's a very, very prominent tool that helped to spread moral panic across the world. Now, how did they do this? In the UK, for example, back in the 90s, there was a rash of animal mutilations, and then the police were running around with copies of this calendar, and they were saying, well, it's close to this date, so it must be Satanists. And then, of course, they would zoom in on anyone dressed in black and who enjoyed rock music, heavy metal, painted their room black, wore black clothing, covered their left eye with their hair. There was no end of stupid during that period. How did they do this? This thing is a disinformation tool. It's designed to spread false information purposely to mislead. False flag intelligence manual, providing a narrative or framework to falsely implicate groups or individuals. And then it is a manipulative intelligence product created to distort the truth or misattribute events to satanic activity. In South Africa, for example, they also used to have this rumor used to go around close to Halloween: lock up your pets, make sure, especially if you've got a black dog or a black cat, lock them up, make sure that nobody can get to them because the Satanists are going to come and steal them to sacrifice to Satan. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the real story came out some years later because it was actually dogfighting syndicates and gangs that used to steal all colored pets, not just black ones, but they used to steal these animals and use them as bait and practice for their fighting dogs to tear apart. In most examples, there are between 84 and 140 days in the festival entries spread across the 365-day calendar year, depending on the calendar version. It would be difficult to find a day of significance to Satanists in the year that could not be connected in some way to a crime committed on or near that day. And that's the whole point of the calendar. It's to misrepresent a religious group, misrepresent their beliefs and practices, and to connect them to criminal activity and to portray them as threatening, harmful, antisocial, and all the other stereotypes that generate moral panic. Now, examples of its use, historically speaking, its creator, David Balsiger, distributed it to local and international law enforcement agencies, supposedly to aid them in investigating occult-related crime, which did not even exist yet as a concept, because he created it before the Satanic Panic. And the goal of that was to actually create the moral panic by spreading moral panic against perceived Satanists. During the 1980s and 90s and 2000s, the South African Police Service used the Satanic Calendar to connect alleged crimes to satanic activity. During the 2000s until his death in the 2010s, a retired American police officer called Don Reimer, regarded as an occult expert, presented his booklet Ritual, Crime and the Occult in training courses to police departments across the US, featuring the Satanic Calendar and other disinformation. In 2004, a police commissioner embarrassed himself and the entire force on BBC Radio 4's Today program by using St. Winebull's Day from the calendar as an example of impending animal or human sacrifice, mutilation or dismemberment, which would ostensibly be committed by Satanists. Churches and deliverance ministries, too numerous to mention, promote versions of the Satanic Calendar from their websites and social media. Now we come to flaws in the Satanic Calendar. I've already addressed each date point in that section, so just keep that in the back of your mind and we go through the broader flaws. What is wrong with the Satanic Calendar, aside from it being utter bullshit and complete fantasy? Its premise is to present a list of festival dates important to Satanists. That's the bottom line. They do not. They are false. Most of these festivals listed in these calendars are archaic or early Christian festivals which have no connection to Satanism and are no longer celebrated in modern times by anyone. Some are completely made up and nonsensical, like the demure ritual. the grand climax. Some are connected to pagan religion, which has no relevance to Satanism, such as Beltane, Halloween, Samhain, solstices, eclipses, harvest celebrations, fertility festivals, and so on. The list of activities presented as connected to these festivals are virtually all criminal in nature, such as human sacrifice, kidnapping, sexual assault, theft, cruelty to animals, and so on and so on. They have no relevance within Satanism or paganism. The presentation of these festivals follows a predictable trend. They either have no association at all with actual Satanism, or may originate within Christianity or some other religious setting, but are generally accompanied by descriptions and explanations that are misleading or outright false. Now we come to the real McCoy, actual days of importance within religious Satanism as a new religious movement. Dates of significance to the Church of Satan. The Church of Satan is atheistic or non-deistic and does not have any required or rigid holiday celebrations, as Satanism is a self-centered religion. It's also materialistic. And just remember that because of all that, this means there is no deity or there is no God who needs to be sacrificed to or satisfied or placated. The highest holiday for a Satanist is often considered to be their own birthday, which should be spent indulging in activities they enjoy. April 30, Walpurgisnacht. This is the anniversary of the founding of the Church of Satan. No other significance attached to it. October 31, Halloween. Time to explore one's inner self through costumes and to recall those who have died following certain European traditions. Then moving on to another prominent religious organization within Satanism, the Satanic Temple. The Satanic Temple is largely an activist organization consisting of a mix of theists, deists, and atheists. So it's a diverse group that belong to it. It's actually, I find it amazing that they actually can coexist and get along, but that's a topic for another day. They have the following days of significance on their calendar. February the 15th, they call it Lupercalia, celebration of bodily autonomy, sexual liberation, and reproduction. April the 30th, Hexennacht, occasion honoring those who fell victim to superstition and pseudoscience, whether by witch hunt, satanic panic, or other injustices. July the 25th, Unveiling Day, celebration of religious plurality and shedding archaic superstition. October 31, Halloween, holiday to celebrate indulgence and embrace the darkness and its aesthetic. December 25, Sol Invictus, celebration of being unconquered by superstition and consistent in the pursuit and sharing of knowledge. Did you notice something about that? There's a stark absence of violence, harming others, kidnapping anybody. Interesting. Maybe it's too boring for the people that like the other calendar. Maybe that's why they prefer it. So now we come to the conclusion. And we're going to answer some of those very important unasked questions. Do these occult satanic calendars have any relevance to occultists and or Satanists themselves? No. The Subculture Alternatives Freedom Foundation, SAFF, appeared to view the so-called Satanic Calendar with nothing less than contempt. They said this, and I quote, "The first thing to bear in mind is that there are no days in the Satanic or pagan calendar when sacrifice is required. It just doesn't happen, is not required in any liturgy, and is not included in any books on Satanism or witchcraft. Hence the entire precept of police claims are counterfeit and based on medieval lies by Christian witch hunters, which have been regurgitated by modern Christian witch hunters." That's from 2012, and it's still true today. Second question. Why have attempts by critics to correct purveyors of satanic calendars on errors or misrepresentations been ignored? Well, because to accept corrections would obliterate the satanic calendar entirely and defeat the object of its existence, being propaganda, moral panic, and it would give credibility to the very people they claim are inherently dishonest, in other words, Satanists. Third question. Why do those promulgating or spreading these devices have no background in religious studies or association with the religions these devices slander? Because their hostile perceptions of Satanism, witchcraft, and paganism were formed and indoctrinated within Christian influences or external influences. So here are some takeaways. Satanic calendars are propaganda disinformation devices containing fake, made-up misinformation created and used by people with the intention of generating or inciting fear and hostility, moral panic towards perceived Satanists and occult practitioners. They have no relation to religious Satanism or any basis in fact whatsoever. They are and have been used by police departments, media, and anti-Satanism activists over the years to spread moral panic based on conspiracy theories about underground satanic communities. These articles are accepted as genuine because of who presents them. That's what it comes down to. Why do people even believe this rubbish? It's because of who's presenting them. Overseas, not so much anymore in an official sense, but here in South Africa, there was a very strong case where authority figures with police uniforms on used to advocate these calendars as being genuine and authentic. These articles are accepted as genuine because of who presents them, such as authority figures within Christianity, law enforcement officers, etc., rather than on the merit of their content. And why would they be accepted? Because the people that are listening to this bullshit don't know any better. They don't know enough about the subject to actually say, hold on, you're talking shit. And the scary part is that even when the people that do know better stood up and said, hold on, buddy, you're talking crap, they were ignored and they were talked over. Those who use these calendars have either been fooled, don't know enough about Satanism or paganism or witchcraft, etc., to be considered an expert, or are deliberately misrepresenting these religions. And that's the thing. Whenever you see somebody who's walking around proclaiming themselves to be an expert in Satanism or whatever the case may be, you need to ask yourself, which one of these are they? Is it somebody who knows what they claim to know, or is it somebody who pretends to know what they claim to know? And below, I'm going to show you all my references. So we finally come to the end of this very long, very complex and serious video. I've been meaning to do this video for a very long time, and I finally got around to it. To give you an idea, it took me a week just to prepare the slides that I used in the board over there. Let me know what you think about the video. Feel free to ask questions. Feel free to post your comments. I promise I'll get around to answering them as soon as I can. I hope you enjoyed this video. I don't care too much about getting monetized, and face it, I probably won't be. So I don't do sponsorships and adverts except for the occasional plug of my own work or self-censorship. So when things like brute stupidity or outright lying and manipulation piss me off, I won't be holding back because I might annoy a few prudes. Swearing is honesty, and sometimes getting it out there can be good to clear the air, and it can help us to confront the things that hurt us or make us angry. That said, it doesn't mean I won't value every click of the like or subscribe buttons. Every click helps, and if you'd like to help me out with the algorithms by hitting those and leaving a comment, I'd be immensely grateful. And if you'd like to support my work, my PayPal and my Ko-fi or coffee, the world runs on coffee, donate links are below. I won't be creating any fancy pants tiers or levels for people following my channel, or closing off access to any of my videos for special groupies. I'm not running this channel as a business, but your support will be sincerely appreciated. I'm Christina Engela. Thank you for watching. See you next time.
Micat lampas vie, umbra e super pelle mean, sussurri in silenzio, ubi nox incipit. Corpus ansut molitum, adversari non possum, tractus in tenebras ubi angeli errant. Tentatio in igne lente, et alte ardet, Silam fiam letale messe, se dicere loro. riesco un diavolo sul cielo rubicundo, salvas con periculo, veritate minmendați subscondens, unos quisque gradusos, unos quisque halitus, excitamentum.